All right. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, keep the chat going. I hate talking to the void, so I want to see comments and questions. Feel free to heckle. Do whatever you like. So thanks for coming. Very excited to be here. Even took a shower and had my wife cut my hair. So we've been here for a few months up in Sonoma. Thanks, everybody. So today I'm going to talk about marketplace quality. It's kind of my favorite subject. I've been involved in marketplaces for 15 years now, and it's my passion. It's is there, Jen, is there a way to be able to both present and do that? I can't see both at the same time, which is a little frustrating. Sorry about that, guys. Well, I guess I'm going to have to just go with the presentation mode because I can't figure out quite how to do it. So, all right, I'm going to talk about quality. So my name's Josh Breinlinger. Thanks again for coming, everybody. And I'm a general partner with Jackson Square Ventures, early stage fund doing SaaS and marketplaces. We write checks that are anything from about 1 to 7 million as a first check. And we're the anti-hype firm. So you can see I brought my conference t-shirt. And this is just some of the marketplaces that we've invested in over the course of the last about 10 years now that I've been a GP. And you can see it spans labor marketplaces, classifieds, pharmacy delivery, commercial real estate, B2B, B2C. It's really very broad. And so, we're an anti-hype firm, which means we're generalists. We're not particularly thesis driven, other than the fact that we like massive existing markets, well understood technology, and weak and fragmented incumbents. And we think that's the recipe that really works well. So this is the whole theme of the presentation, is this quality flywheel. And this is how it works to me. I think it applies. It's a little geared towards labor marketplace operations, but I think many of the same things apply to a marketplace for goods, Etsy, OfferUp, Amazon, whatever it might be. And this is how it goes. You have to attract great users, screen to make sure you're bringing in the best ones, train, although as many of you know, you can't use the word train, so use the word onboard, otherwise they become W-2s. And then optimize, and this is one of the most critical steps of who gets what work or who buys what products. And we'll go into a lot of depth about that. But then the key, obviously, is retaining the great users and expelling the bad users. And if you can successfully do that, what you will get is a virtuous cycle. So because you'll see towards the end, if you have a bunch of great users on the platform, that tends to attract more great users. Like attracts like. And the problem is the opposite is true as well. So if you end up retaining the bad users, the scammers, the low quality, that's going to attract the same as well. So that's why many marketplaces can fall into this death spiral where it just gets worse and worse. But of course, your goal is the virtuous cycle. How can you get it to start performing better and better over time? So let's dive in. First of all, I think one of the hardest things for a ton of marketplaces is just measuring marketplace quality. It's very subjective. It's hard to define sometimes. And a lot of people default to just something simple like 5-star feedback systems of, hey, we have good customer feedback, so that's good quality. Well, I don't think that's really true. I think you have to dig a layer deeper and really understand a more nuanced health metric. In a perfect world, you would know that, hey, if you come into a marketplace and hire me, well, then you're going to convert to low lifetime value. And so you should do everything possible not to let someone hire me. But if you can find the inputs that really drive high lifetime value, like just, I don't know if this is true or not, but I assume if an Uber driver shows up super fast, super reliable, you're very likely to repeat purchase. I made up all these numbers, so they don't mean anything. Okay. So I'm going to talk through each one of those steps in the flywheel. So with screening, there's obviously existing profiles. There's things you can do around custom tests. Prelude Institute has one of the most interesting ones I've seen recently that I think is great. You can do all sorts of automation to, create your own tests, create your own phone screens. People have done this with automated Twilio messaging back and forth. And of course, with goods, you can do content moderation, photo quality, visual inspection. A lot of people know Go with in-person authentication. But I have a mini case study for each one of these buckets, and these are based on mostly my portfolio, marketplace founders and CEOs that I know very well. So this is a marketplace that was hiring customer service agents. There's obviously a huge pool of candidates that can potentially do the job. What they did is they posted a job post on Upwork. So as many of you know, I was on the founding team at Odesk before it acquired Elance and became Upwork. And the whole test was to role play a scenario of a help ticket. And so if you were applying to the job, you called into a number and you listened to a voicemail that was, some sort of complaint like, hey, I didn't get my package, what the heck, this has caused a big problem. And the task was to call back and leave a voicemail for the customer. And then that voicemail was evaluated. And it was evaluated on three main things of, was there sincere empathy on the voicemail? Was there a clear resolution plan? Was there reassurance? And it became a 0 to 100 rank. And that was incredibly indicative of future performance, which is really what they were going for here. And then the last thing I thought was really interesting is they also did a simple typing test. How many words per minute were people able to type? And they didn't so much care about the typing speed, but what they found was the typing test was a really good proxy for computer literacy, because if you've spent a lot of time on a computer, you can type reasonably fast. And so that meant less technical support issues, more ability to use Salesforce and the various software things. And this whole process basically ended up getting to an acceptance rate of 1 out of 100, or about 1% acceptance rate, which really built an incredible network. So that's just one screening case study. The flip side here, by the way, is you can't go too far. If you put in too many hurdles, you will get decreasing interest and fewer candidates, and especially fewer great candidates. So just be careful as you think about how to screen. And this is just a commentary I often make. More is not always better. Could be, maybe not. It's, I think, very important for marketplaces to measure how engaged are users. What share of wallet do you get? So, if you had 1,000 users that each worked 1 hour a month, it's actually not very good. They could leave in a heartbeat. I'd actually rather have, 1/10 that number, or maybe even 1/100th of that number, but they're fully engaged. They're really full-time on your marketplace and making a business and a career out of it. Training and onboarding, I'm not going to talk about too much because, to be perfectly honest, I don't know many marketplaces that do an amazing job of this. But obviously, you want to, if you have potentially high LTV users, it's worth investing to make sure they're onboarding and make sure they're successful, because obviously a successful marketplace participant is worth orders of magnitude more than the top of the funnel. And there is one thing that I think is going to be interesting, we'll see in the future, is this notion of integrating ISAs, the income share agreements, with some marketplaces. So you could imagine a cybersecurity marketplace that takes people, first of all, trains them of how to do the cybersecurity job, and then converts that into a marketplace workforce. I think we'll see more of that going forward. All right, optimize. So this is kind of my favorite part. Who gets the work? Which item gets ordered? Is it kind of buyer beware? Is it more of a managed marketplace? And if you've heard me talk before, you know I'm on a personal quest to destroy 5 stars. Because it doesn't reflect the real world. The real world is a normal curve. 5-star distribution looks like that. Every marketplace is 5-star, that's the distribution. And so the message there is that 5-star systems, all they really help you do is identify the bad participants. They can help you do that, but they don't really separate for the high quality. And I firmly believe you need to find other signals for high quality. Here's just a couple examples. First of all, if anybody plays chess, there's this guy Arpad Elo that invented the Elo rating system. The point is that it's a relative scoring. So if I play Justin in chess and I win, I go up a point, but he also goes down a point, and vice versa. And if I play someone who's really great, and I lose, I actually don't lose much because they were already great. They were expected to win. And so it really ends up building this normal curve of marketplace participants that reflects reality. And it helps you separate the truly great users. So like I said, I think you absolutely need to find better signals in the marketplace beyond just the 5-star systems. And so I just put in a few examples. I think every marketplace is different. Everybody's a special snowflake. So you got to figure out your own. But here's just a few thoughts. You know, if I get a couple candidates from Upwork and I choose one, well, maybe that person goes up and the other candidates go down. And that moving other people down is not something any marketplaces really do. But I think they should do more of it because you would end up with that normal curve. Same thing if someone is rapidly progressing in their career or rate progression, or they're selling more of their items. That's a super strong signal of quality and probably much better than any 5-star system. Last one, this is my personal order history at Amazon. I bought the same pair of jeans 4 times in a row. It doesn't matter what I rate them. You know I love those jeans and they're great, and I'm gonna order them every time. Super strong indicator. Okay, so 25 minutes goes fast. Okay, optimizing case study. So this is a company called Faber Connect. I'm an investor and on the board. It's a temp staffing for construction. And what they have done for their quality score, I'm not going to read through all this, but you'll get the idea, is that it's not just based on customer feedback. It's based on recency and signals like extensions, which means, hey, I hired somebody for a day, but I actually ended up using them for a week. Super strong signal. And what they've done is tier work requests into 5, actually 6 tiers. And they base it on quality score, and they're driving towards decreased no-show rates, because that is a low quality experience that leads to a low LTV. And so they're looking at quality score, repeat worker, recency, proximity to the job. In their case, obviously everything is on site, so proximity really matters. And the whole point here is that they incorporate tons of different factors to try to get to the best possible experience. And I think that's what every marketplace needs to do. Okay. The next step in the flywheel is retaining the good users and expelling the bad users. It's kind of pretty obvious and incredibly important. And it's also one I don't think people spend enough time on. It's kind of an interesting thought experiment. I've started asking a lot of entrepreneurs, if you had more dollars to invest in great user retention, how would you spend it? And I think that's a very good thought experiment. So maybe next year I'll have some results there. But just one quick case study from a company called Rev. Hopefully many of you are users. They do voice to text, audio transcription, and they have a tiered system. But the important thing is that once we know who the best workers are, they get promoted to what we call Rever Plus. And that's based on reliability, tenure, all these things. But what's so critical is once they are promoted, they have reduced competition because they're in this elite segment and they get priority access to jobs. So it means they can work pretty much as they could ever want. They have a higher hourly rate. It's automatic. You get promoted into it. And the Rever retention there is 5 times higher than the rest. So, great successful case study. Just one knock. Hopefully nobody hears from 99 Designs. I feel a little bad. But the contest model is exactly the opposite way to do it, because you piss off your great users because they did work and didn't get any money, and the bad users that are sort of desperate keeps like spamming more and more logos and stuff like that, and so they have a big quality problem in that vicious cycle. Okay, and then the last part, assuming you've retained those good users, is you have to count on quality attracting more quality. And these are just kind of a couple examples here. Great athletes sort of coalesce and want to play for the same team. I think the thing a lot of marketplaces can do is really just put the greatness on display. If you know the great users, the great items, who cares? Maybe it's an e-commerce site. You put the best-selling items up front. That attracts more of the same. And to the same token, when you know the bad, hide it. Like, it shouldn't be on the front page. And just a quick case study here on Masterclass, and we're not investors in Masterclass, but we're investors in Outlier.org, which is started by one of the Masterclass co-founders. And they have obviously assembled just a world-class network quality. And it's important to remember that it was exceptionally hard in the beginning. And in talking with the co-founders there, one of the key things was it wasn't just a matter of getting James Patterson or Serena Williams to agree to do it. It was bringing a whole set of production expertise behind them so that they knew if they came on, they would look fantastic. They didn't really design their own classes. Masterclass designs the classes, and the celebrity shows up, frankly, a little bit more as an actor or actress. And so the expertise was absolutely critical. And one thing is you sort of get this social proof by attaching big names. And so right from the start, they had an Academy Award director that was filming 3-minute educational videos. Right? In theory, it made no sense, but it was incredibly important to get that proof on board to get the flywheel starting to go. And you can see here, they got James Patterson first, that led to Serena Williams and Usher and Annie Leibovitz, and as they say, that was their stake in the ground. We are the highest quality. We got it. And screening became very, very important later. And so they recount some stories where some absolutely incredibly famous actors wanted to do their own classes, but they were also actually known as not being that great of an actor. Sort of there was the fame versus mastery trade-off, and they decided that they didn't have true mastery, and it didn't reflect the brand reputation they wanted. It didn't reflect the quality that they wanted to be able to attract, and so they screened that out and did not let them in. And then the last part, of course, is you have to deliver, and you can get those people on board, but where this flywheel really starts kicking in is once you start delivering and you show that, hey, you came in, you did this class, and now you're getting royalty checks. And that's where these network effects kick off, because they talk to each other, they share the success with other experts, and ultimately that lets them acquire almost anyone because they have that world-class network. And there may be somebody super famous, but it's in architecture or biology that's not famous by itself. But there's no question, if they were going to do any online education, they would come to Masterclass, because that's clearly stands for world-class talent. And so that is the final piece of the puzzle in my mind, and that's how you get the flywheel going. And that is the end of the show. So now I apologize because I wasn't able to actually see questions coming in as we were going, because I had to flip and navigate presentation. But now I can kind of scroll through questions, and I think we have about 5 minutes here. Okay, so let me scroll back through. Or just keep firing them off if you have one. Hey, Matthias, good to see you, man. Let's see, any way to expand the flywheel size? Sorry, I'll post it on my blog, so you can all see later. The blog is acrowdedspace.com. Okay, when is feedback on a scale 0 to 10 helpful versus binary feedback? So that's a cool question. So I think the 0 to 10 is a completely artificial thing that we made up when we started building websites to do this stuff. If you're just talking to your friends about, hey, did you like that restaurant? Nobody says, oh, it was a 4 out of 10. Nobody says that. You say it was terrible, it was okay, or it was great. And so I think people intuitively think on more of a 3-point scale like that, if you want to quantify it. And so my personal preference for these feedback systems is to just do ask real world questions. You hired Josh, do you want to work with him again? Yes or no? That's it. That is a more meaningful question than 1 to 5 stars. And I think the 1 to 5, you end up with all this grade inflation. Like, maybe you worked with me, I wasn't that good, but I'm a nice guy. So you're like, all right, I don't want to ruin his online reputation. I'll just give him 5 stars. Doesn't really count. I've given every single Uber driver ever 5 stars because I don't care. So I like the, do you want this driver, yes or no kind of thing. Wasn't the ELO rating the same formula as adapted for face match in the social network? Maybe it's kind of like the hot or not sort of thing. But yeah, I think that maybe one of it. Sorry for some audio problems. Nothing I can do about that now. What's your opinion on the statement? Putting greatness on display might make the marketplace less believable because it just looks too good to be true. I haven't thought about that, but I don't think it's a problem. I think a lot of these marketplaces end up having like an aspirational thing. Just to give you an example from Strava, one of our other investments, Strava started, it's a running and cycling app. You can track your runs and rides. They had people like Lance Armstrong as some of their first users. And they had all the pros. They targeted the Tour de France riders. I am never going to come remotely close to competing with those folks, but it becomes an aspirational thing. And so seeing those people right up front just gives me confidence. It's like, this is where I want to be, right? And so I think it's okay. I don't think there's really any downside to it. How should a marketplace manage bad reviews? It's never easy, but I think most marketplaces don't make the hard decisions to kick people out. And I was guilty of this in my early days at Odesk. Someone would get some bad reviews, but then they got some good reviews from other people, so maybe it's okay. But and there was always that trade-off of like, if we kick this person out, do we lose revenue for the marketplace? We don't want to do that. But I think the thing we had to really process is we weren't going to lose the revenue. It was just going to shift to a better user or a better product or something like that. And so I think people should have way more conviction about kicking people out, curating, screening. It just makes for a better experience for everybody. Let's see. What else do we have? Big theme for marketplaces in the next 2 to 3 years. Good question. A lot of people, the common answer from me and my peers right now is like B2B marketplaces. I do like B2B marketplaces. I think there's a lot of potential. Just think about how businesses operate in their purchasing department. They have like order forms in triplicate and send out 50 RFQs and waste tons of time. I also think I like B2B marketplaces. I think there's also going to be this progression into like more complex transactions. So far things work really well when it's, a single person hiring a single freelancer or a single person, buying something on Etsy. But they don't work well when you actually want a whole customer service team or something like that. And that's where things tend to break down and where people tend to go more traditional routes, traditional outsourcing firms or something like that. I think we need to get much, much better at that. And who knows, maybe this whole COVID thing actually helps us because we're all learning how to work remotely as teams much better than we ever have before. So I think that's going to be one progression of this, this notion of career progression for individuals, like for freelancers, as well as this notion of more complexity, more team formation, things like that. This is a great talk. Thank you, sir. Reputation badges for quality like the ones used by House. Sure. 7 years ago, we were all into gamification. I think I think a lot of people just get carried away and do it for the sake of badges. Like somebody has this cool idea, like, hey, we should have badges. But if it's not tied to any tangible result, like I get more money or I get more priority access to jobs or something, I think it becomes pretty meaningless and people see through it pretty quickly. When you clean out bad players, do you keep them on your cohort? Oh, interesting question. I think a lot of people just have separate cohorts, right? You have like the all user cohort and then the cohort that really matters. And I think it's perfectly fine, especially in an investor pitch deck or something, to show both. And if you showed me that, I'd be excited. I don't know if everyone would be excited about it. Customer segmentation. Great question. So what do I have? 3 minutes here? Oh, it's all out of time for now. I'm still going to answer the question until you shut me off. So, customer segmentation in ratings, I do that. This matters a ton, right? It's the same thing as Google's PageRank. If my blog links to a site, it doesn't matter. If CNN links to a site, it matters a ton. They have more authority. Nobody has ever tried to factor authority into feedback ratings, but of course it's different, right? If a CTO rates a software developer high, that means a lot. If I rate a software developer high, that doesn't mean anything. But I don't have a great way to do it, but I would love to see anybody that's starting to consider authority in these ranking systems. So if you do, let me know. I'm Josh at jsv.com. And yeah, great to meet everybody, sort of. Thanks for commenting and listening. And reach out anytime. So thank you all. Enjoy the rest of the conference.